All right, we'll go ahead and we'll get started to be respectful of everyone's time. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Erica Molina, and I am the Associate Vice President of Education and Future Workforce Development at the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar presentation on the importance of the entrepreneurial mindset. Before we get started, I want to share a few standard housekeeping rules with everyone. All participants are on mute. Should you have a question, please type it in the chat box, the Q&A box, or click the raise your hand button. There will be an opportunity to answer questions at the end of the presentation. This webinar is also being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube page. A link to the recording along with the presentation will be sent out to all who registered. Now it's my honor to welcome our 2020 Hispanic Chamber Chairwoman, Dr. Erica Gonzalez. Dr. Gonzalez, are you in?
Oh, yes, Erica, I'm so sorry. I've been talking to myself for like the past 5 minutes. Okay, now that I'm officially off mute, thank you, Erica. And I want to thank all of you guys for joining us this afternoon for this very special webinar on the importance of the entrepreneurial mindset. We're going to be looking and outlining at the importance of entrepreneurial thinking and how we develop this in our kids, how important this is for them growing up and also during these times of uncertainty. We have today with us, we're very honored to have Erica Prosper-Nuremberg, who is the brains behind this program. Currently, Erica serves as Director of Customer Insights for HEB, where she leads a team that's tasked with helping guide the development of HEB's strategic vision and operational efforts by providing customer insight to change the business gain and establish a preference for the company. Among much of the advocacy work that Erica does, it revolves around efforts to help improve quality of life among underserved populations through girls and women empowerment, education, and literacy. And during her tenure as chair of the Hispanic Chamber, she launched this RISE program, Raising and Inspiring Successful Entrepreneurs in September of 2018. And it's just really kind of blown up since then. So without further ado, I want to hand it over to Erica so that she can start her presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. I am going to share my screen with all of you and start our wonderful presentation. How is everyone today? I know you're mute, so you can't tell me, but that's okay. I'm going to assume you are ready to understand why the growth mindset is important as we think about the future and where we're going. At the end of the day, today, the future really, really looks uncertain. These are quotes from different people around both the country, different genders that talk about really their top concerns as a mother, as a husband, as a father, as someone employed, as someone who may not be employed. And it really can be summed up with this idea that adults right now feel like everything really worries them. Oh, that the health and the financial situation and the job security of everybody is just something that we keep hearing about over and over again. And what normalcy will look like, no one knows. And when uncertainty hits, it increases both anxiety and fear, because our rational brains are kind of what we operate most of the time. Yay for us. But whenever we're threatened, and uncertainty is definitely a threat, we go to what they call a limbic system. And that really is about engaging your brain to survive. And so anxiety, in a way, is good because it makes you worry, right? It makes you aware of what you should be considering. Fear is good because it gets you prepared in case there is an attack physically. And then risk-taking also increases because you're not sure what the future holds, so you're willing to go out of bounds for things. And so what is really important for us to understand is that sometimes when we face uncertainty, our brains will push us to overreact. And how many of you, you know, to yourselves or in the Q&A or in the chat or comment box, and tell us, yeah, my kid is tending to overreact in some way. Either they're not listening like they used to, either they're really scared all the time, or they need to be babied way more than normal. All these things are because uncertainty is breeding a lot of fear and anxiety in them. And specifically, kids.
Or Woodlawn Lake Park. The bird species that are seen at
if you all can mute, if you all can mute, that would be great. Sorry about that.
Field, at Lackland or Kelly Field.
The main thing here is that anxiety and fear in kids can also be triggered by changes in routine. And this is especially cognizant, or we're especially cognizant of that right now as parents and business owners, because really the main impact that research has shown COVID has had on children has been through school closures. And, you know, we all joke around a lot, especially last week. We begged our teachers to please come back. You know, we all miss you. The truth of the matter is that school, not just the teachers, provided something for children that gave them an ability to combat anxiety and fear under normal circumstances. And that included the consistency of schedules. Just having periods and those bells and a consistent schedule helped to alleviate anxiety and fear in kids because it gave them a routine, predictability and rules and consequences. I know that if I don't raise my hands, I'm going to get in trouble. I know what the rules and consequences says. It gives me routine. It gives me some sense of stability. Set expectations. I know when it's due. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know by what time. The environment that itself is around self-discipline and impulse control development. That is a lot of what our teachers and our schools do. They help to guide our kids around what is it that they should and should not be doing and how to control themselves. And then a sense of safety and control overall, right? A place of their own in many ways. And so what's happened is that as COVID has hit us as adults and we think about the health and the economy and our jobs, for kids, they think of what is going on? What am I supposed to do next? And so really at the end of this, the reason we wanted to share this with you right now is because skills that help combat these reactions tend to be linked with what we call a growth mindset, tend to be linked with the very thing that we are going to talk about. So I'm going to play a video that gives you a little bit more of an idea of the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
Hi, Erica. Do you have the volume linked to your computer? I think it's a little low.
I do, but I don't know if I have it muted. Is no one able to listen?
It's very low from what I hear.
Unfortunately, let me see something, guys. Because my volume and my computer is all the way up. Let me see if in my Zoom, oh, that didn't work. Let's see, microphone, same as system. System. Here, let's test. How is everybody hearing me? Everyone's hearing me fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I'm not sure, but if you all can raise it on your end, then I'm sorry about that. I will try and talk about a little bit about the summary here. Let me do this. Let's realize that. Well, there we go. I did not claim to be a technical expert, so I apologize. The videos will be shared afterwards. The point of that video, though, at the end of the day, is that really for us, during these times, a growth mindset benefits our children beyond academically. That to us, really at this time, a growth mindset allows for them to look as where will this go? When there are no measured answers, where will this go? A child with the skill set of a growth mindset is able to move past that and look at these challenges of today towards what's future. So that's really the big vision behind the RISE program. As you can see there, the point of this was to understand not just the soft skills that were happening, but really developing at the time an adaptable and problem-solving resilient workforce pipeline. I would say right now we're really thinking about developing a more adaptable, problem-solving and resilient youth more than anything else in San Antonio. And so that's really what this webinar is going to be about, taking you through the background of the program and just some ways in which people have used it. So really quickly, you know, before we get into how it started, we want to talk about some of the research that really has helped us understand why this is needed, right? So Up Partnership, which used to be P16, they really have done a lot of research to understand what is success, what's going to prepare kids for the real world. And they discovered that in their research, which was a mix of stakeholders from business, from the education system, parents themselves, and even children, that it's not just about the academic achievements, but about this socio-emotional development. Because without socio-emotional development, right, then you don't end up with ultimately the socioeconomic mobility that you have. Many of you who are either parents or are employers have heard us talk a lot about the soft skills. Well, soft skills are really that stuff you learn in socio-emotional development, and combined with academic achievements, you're able to see where the trajectory potentially of a child can go. But what happens when there are no academic achievements? What happens when school, like we talked about, gets really reallocated through a whole new system, maybe with not the continuity, with not the interaction that children need? You have to then over-depend on the socioeconomic, socio-emotional and growth mindset development to really counterbalance sometimes when you're lacking in the routine of things. And that's really why we feel that this is important. Just to give you a little bit more background, those key socio-emotional and growth mindsets that we talked about in the first slide really revolved around this combination of words, everything from optimism and compassion to critical thinking, resourcefulness, et cetera. And this was still from the research that P16 had conducted. And then in addition to that, they talked about, okay, what needs to be in place in order for us to truly achieve getting kids prepared for the future? And as you can see, people talked a lot about, we need to set high expectations. And yes, aspirations of family are a huge, huge, huge circumstance that helps children. We have to make sure the materials are available and that, quite frankly, the education, if needed, be bilingual for those children that are also learning. But most of all, they also talked about the fact that you need to create an entrepreneurial spirit for kids in order to help them learn and retain these mindsets. And so what this has allowed us to do with RISE is really understand, okay, if an entrepreneurial education, if it's weaved into it, what has been shown to do? And so lucky for us, there's an actual consortium for educational, entrepreneurial education that tracks a lot of these things. And they've talked about how an entrepreneurial education and the weaving of this helps everything from improving academic skills to decreasing truancy to improving financial literacy. And as you can see the list that you read on the screen, the biggest takeaway you can have is that the entrepreneurial education, it allows for the socio-emotional and growth mindset aspects that we've been talking about to seep in. So we at the Chamber thought, well, why not then create something that teaches how to have that growth mindset we all are looking for, but basing it on an entrepreneurial education. Because we were a chamber of commerce, so we wanted to make sure that we tied it still back to workforce development and entrepreneurism, because so many of our members are entrepreneurs. But more than that, we saw the link between the basics of a growth mindset and those socio-emotional things that our kids need, and the exposure to an entrepreneurial education. So because of that, we partnered with Venture Lab, a well-known entrepreneurial and STEM company, and we created a workbook that allows us to talk not just about the overall mindset, which is really about this achieving anything, as you saw in the video, not limiting yourself, but another 12 things like optimism, getting confidence and hope, opportunity seeking, where you teach kids to actively observe and identify circumstances, understand how they can either add value or solve a problem, creativity, being bold, not limiting yourself, curiosity, always asking the what if, asking the why, empathy, thinking about other people's needs and feelings and solving a problem. And we know that empathy right now during COVID has been one of the biggest lessons learned by so many. And so more than ever, I think this is going to be a requirement in businesses, because the future is changing, I think. But this, in case that you also consider the fact that you have multiple children in one household, empathy is a really great thing to start developing in those kids early, especially if you want to make sure they all survive this and not get on each other's nerves every day. Problem solving, obviously, this idea of actively thinking about what's around you and how to solve it. And then embracing failure. We know in situations of crises, there's going to be a lot of try and learn, try and learn, try and learn. So for us, this idea of embracing failure is important to teach kids. But right now, also, as they're at home and they're dealing with an unknown circumstance around school, some of them may or may not come out of it like they were. They may have been on the trajectory of making straight A's, and then suddenly the shift in routine has made them uncomfortable, and they're not coming in with that, or they're coming in lower. The point is that it's important to teach our kids how to embrace it, how to redefine it, and how to not let it avoid moving on and moving forward. We're also going to talk in the workbook to our kids about persistence and grit. And we know that right now that's a really big thing around not only learning failure, but understanding what problems you're passionate about. Developing quick and clever ways to overcome challenges through resourcefulness. Adaptability, probably one of the biggest things we can give our children right now, as they also face what they have to do with a whole new skill set that they may not have been prepared for. And then finally, courage, because at the end of the day, preparing our kids for a growth mindset, preparing our kids to even think about entrepreneurism, without courage and without helping them step out of their comfort zones, really is not going to give them the best self that they have. So those are the things that that RISE as a workbook goes over, and that we collaborated with Venture Lab on creating. So I'm going to walk you through the workbook structure, because I think it's important for us to understand that really this is divided into three main chunks. The first two chapters are really about setting the stage for the kids. What is entrepreneurship? It's a big word, so we want to make sure kids understand it. And let's learn about ourselves, because not only able to grow and to become entrepreneurs, we need to learn what we like, what we don't like, who we are right now, who we want to be. This is really important also during crises, because remember, loss of control is very much a byproduct of what has happened here for children. And so having them look inside themselves and learn about themselves gives them a little bit of an idea of control. It allows for them to recenter on potentially who they are. So it's very important that we set that up in the first two chapters of the workbook. The middle section, really the biggest section, is around helping our kids understand how to practice all those 13 things we just went over. These entrepreneurial mindsets. There are about 1 to 2 activities per mindset that we discussed, per skill set. And the kids will go through them. Now, what's important for you to know is that none of these should take more than 5 minutes. They can take more if you want to engage with your child, or if you have 2 kids engaging, a brother and a sister engaging with each other and talking about them. But none of these should be so big and heavy that a child doesn't enjoy it. This was designed to maximize their attention so that while they're paying attention to the activity and they're reading about the mindset, they're soaking it in. So don't be bothered with the fact that this is not an hour-long lesson or that this chapter took them only 15 to 20 minutes to complete or even less. It's self-paced, so kids will go at their pace. What's most important is that the kids go through it, read it, understand it. The other good news is that during this section, we put tips in for you. So don't just think this is something for the kids. There are tips there that allow for you to interact with kids, gives you websites you could potentially go to learn more about a subject, even things that you can do with them yourselves. And I think what's important is that this middle section really is probably one of the most important things that you want to give your kid the time and the space to do and the creativity, because these are the ones that are going to cement those soft skills we talked about. But we also knew that it was important, and I think now more than ever, it's going to be really important that our kids understand finances. So the final section is devoted to about 30 pages of financial literacy. We know that if your kid grows up talking about money, about spending and saving and preparing for the future, they're not going to shy around asking very important questions that are money related to them as they grow. Everything from allowances to how much they should be making for their first job, calculating and understanding how many hours they should work to be able to afford those shoes or that car. But as they get older, it'll allow for them to also understand how important financial aid is or savings while they're in college. And ultimately, if they grow comfortable talking about finances, they'll be better about asking for what they think they're worth when they go off and look for a job. So it's important for us to instill financial literacy, not just so kids understand money, but so they can feel comfortable about money. And I think as we all think about post-COVID and what's coming to us, it's going to be important for us to have some money discussions with our kids. It's going to be important for us to have some basic discussions around why we may or may not be able to take that vacation this summer, or why we may be saving more than spending. This will allow and be a bridge to help kids understand potentially what's going on. So I know that again, I'm sad that some of you cannot hear these videos, but I chose some videos that still use visuals. Hopefully this will be better this time. If not, it's okay. Again, the videos we will post afterwards. So as we can see, I showed that to you primarily because I thought it would be important that if we move forward with this book, either in your home or in your classes or anywhere else, it's important that we don't get bothered by the answers of the kids. It's more important that we praise the fact that is going through the book, the child is learning, that the child's being creative, praising the effort less than the intelligence or the ability. And so I wanted to also level set with you because as we started to develop this, we didn't necessarily put rules around how teachers or schools could execute against it. So when we launched it in June of 2018, and we made the books available in hard copy in September of 2018. The main distribution really at the time was nonprofits. We were really hoping that we were going to do parent-facing things where parents would then receive it and then go with kids. And we really focused on this idea of bilingual, because we do have a Spanish version, 60 activities in the workbook, and Wells Fargo is the one that donated the entire financial literacy component based on their hands-on banking. So we didn't make up the financial literacy aspect. It came from a well-respected, established bank and program in the United States. The focus originally was elementary school grades 3 to 5th, because during this time, socio-emotional and mindset growth is really important. But if you really think about it, we've talked about basically pre-K and early education a lot, and we talk a lot about middle school and high school development for the purpose of career. But between really 1st grade and 5th and 6th grade, we really don't talk a lot to the kids outside of the STAR test. So we thought this would be a great time to help cement what was happening naturally with giving them guidance. Again, teach the teacher model. The point was to target kids via parents and develop master trainers from different nonprofits or partnerships, and then measure through self-administrated parent surveys. So we ultimately have distributed, well, at least as of September 2019, obviously I have to update this, Erica, but as of September, we had already donated over 4,000 books. We printed 4,000 books, 500 in Spanish. We probably have distributed almost 4,000 by now. And we won a wonderful grant to help us develop a strategic plan from SVPSA last year. In addition to that, during that launch year, September year on year, we had all these organizations request over 30 books. We only listed those that wanted 30 or over. We're not even listing the ones that requested 10 or 15. But all of these organizations, now remember, originally our goal was to go through organizations that would teach parents so that they could teach their kids. But what started happening was, as the book got out there, people realized that they could go directly to kids. And so a lot of these organizations just immediately took it upon themselves to teach it to their kids, whether it was an after-school program, a classroom, et cetera, themselves. And I want to feature a couple of them and show you what they did. The first is really Mark Twain Dual Language Academy. What they did was they provided the book and used that as a guide force for their kids in one of their classes to create new products. So let me show you, if you can hear, what the So this child created a lightning lunchbox that automatically heats your food for $20. So the RRE it's a half of a toilet roll. It holds your phone. It's completely recyclable. It's only $1. And the point here was to create something that would be recyclable and not put more plastic in the oceans. This is in Spanish. And then this one I'm going to play because it's for the next, you'll see kind of everything that they did. So the virtual reality glove that a child came up with is it allows for you to touch the temperature of objects and sort of go into where you are in your surroundings. I picked him last because I want to show you how, well, no, I told you I wasn't technically smart. That's how I feel some days. Let me see. There we go. So what happened is the kids didn't just create the product. They had to go through 2 rounds. They had to not only display it in a gym and have people come around and ask them questions, but then they had to give a formal presentation. You can see Franco here in his presentation, Silicon Valley hoodie, of course, as well as his more formal jacket here with his awesome Reebok. And so what's interesting is both the child had to not only display it to the public, but then give a formal presentation of what it took, what should it take for them to get here. So if you can listen, again, I'm sorry about that if you can't hear, but we'll post it. So confidence and courage. You can't really hear this one. So I'm not going to have it play, but you should know that when he speaks, he talks about the fact that he had to be positive so that he could get through thinking through what could it be. He had to be a good team player, so he had to learn collaboration, and he had to learn courage to stand up here as well. And again, there we go. I want to next feature another partner of ours, Nationwide. Now, Nationwide was trained as master trainers, and they went and they taught other people. So we're going to hear a short video from them as to what working with RISE has meant.
Let me see if I could try to share my video, Erica, on this one.
Yeah, go ahead. See if you can share yours. I'll stop sharing mine.
The opportunity of being selected as one of the founding partners of the RISE program, which is facilitated by our San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We felt that the free curriculum that's provided by this RISE program actually aligned very well with our own values and our strategy of continuing to support our community and really focusing on our workforce of the future and ensuring that this workforce has a 21st century mindset, which is really what this curriculum is all about. Several of the concepts within the RISE program, such as empathy and problem solving, adaptability, are all key concepts that we actually utilize even within our own nationwide internal corporate training, as we continue to focus on supporting our own workforce internally. What we wanted to do today through this video in this new virtual environment that we're actually in is actually showcase our support and share with you how it is that our very own parents and our associates are currently utilizing this RISE program in their everyday activities.
With the stay-at-home in order right now, I know a lot of times you run out of activities and ideas of what to do to keep yourself entertained. So we actually have this workbook called RISE, which stands for Raising and Inspiring Successful Entrepreneurs. So an entrepreneur is somebody who seeks out new ways to problem solve and they're creative. So that's important for us to learn about on how to be an entrepreneur. So while we're learning, we're also going to have fun. So the activity we're going to do is called Embracing Failure. So why do you think it's important to learn about failure?
Because in life you'd fail, and I'm assuming that this part right here is to learn how to embrace failure, or to get used to it.
To get used to it, to learn from it. We're going to learn how to embrace failure with the activity Tower Challenge. Yeah, sounds exciting, right? So you're going to build a tower as tall as you can using only 2 sheets of paper and 1 pair of scissors. Now, the tower must be freestanding, so you, I know, you can't use tape, you can't prop it up against a table or a wall. It needs to just be on its own, and it needs to stand for at least 10 seconds. So here is the problem. You have 1 minute to build it, okay? So think about how you're going to put it together. So let me give you your supplies. What to do? Okay, both of y'all are starting to fold. Pretty good. This is pretty good. Okay, ready? Let's do like this. Okay, ready? And 1, 2, 3. High 5 for failure. All right, high 5 for making it stand. What you are going to do next time on this activity?
So next time I'm gonna maybe cut them a little smaller and use the same tactic except for this paper. I'm gonna put it up like this, but put this down, so I'll stand it like this, but put this in so then I'll hold it up.
Okay. So when you embrace failure because you failed, what happens when you fail?
So you learn.
You learn.
At Nationwide, we have had the opportunity to train over 200 parents, children, and family members, as well as distributed 165 books into the community. And here's what these families have to say.
I learned how to show and teach my own child to have and gain confidence, along with learning to never give up and teach them other ways to show and describe feelings of failure.
I learned that no matter what, our kids are always observant, and we are always role models in their eyes. Using these exercises, I can build my child's confidence and self-importance.
Children think different and simple. We can learn a lot from them. This workbook and activities helps open those lines of communication and creates a forum to get a child actively involved while building their confidence and my own.
To remind my granddaughter that they can work to make things better by seeking opportunities to improve.
You know, the fact is, kids are the future, and it's important to motivate them to have a goal-driven mindset and be entrepreneurs.
At this moment in time, we're staying indoors and staying safe. What a perfect opportunity to use the RISE workbook to continue to have fun and talk about a bright future.
All right.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Erica, for that. Appreciate it. But ultimately, as I round up the presentation, I just want to let you know that we did a community survey after about the first year of RISE being in the community. And these are some of the big things that people told us really ranked high for what they wanted to develop in an entrepreneurial mindset for their kids. And as you can see, problem solving, growth mindset, adaptability, and financial literacy were up there. All of them really were important, but more than ever, I think parents, always being prescient as we are, knew that it was going to be important for us to teach our kids how to sort of make sure that we understood whatever problems in front of us we can get through, but everything from adaptability and financial literacy to courage and resourcefulness is also up there. And just, so we have the 15-minute Q&A, the advice that we would give you during this time, because what we're trying to help RISE do with you and your families is helping you set up a routine. You know, it can be part of a routine. It can be part of your daily routine to do an activity with them, spend those 10, 15 minutes like that mom did, talking about one activity and what it would mean really quickly, but it helps keep something for your child moving and something they can look forward to. We advise you to be creative about adding new activities and exercises during your COVID time. And RISE, we think, would be one of those. You don't have to think about what the next project or what the next activity is going to be. Creative activities have already been laid out that are pretty easy to do and don't use anything outside of just what's in your household. You know, we also ask you to manage your own anxiety. A lot of parents who went through RISE told us that, you know, the book reminds them of what they want. some of the questions that they were asking their kids, they managed to ask themselves. And so as you think about COVID and managing your own anxiety, we hope that RISE can also help you with that. Also, we advise that you limit consumption of news. That has nothing to do with RISE. This is just what psychologists tell us right now, so that children can manage without. And then staying in touch virtually. The good thing about RISE is that you can do this with other kids, or your kids can do it with other kids. You can set up RISE play dates where 2 or 3 families or cousins can kind of do this at 3 o'clock every day. And for 30 minutes, they can be on Zoom and they can talk to each other and they can do an activity together and talk openly about what they learned. We ask that you make plans during these times because, again, kids need plans. Kids need something. Keeping it positive, and of course, one of the things you'll learn is positivity, but always keeping it positive. Don't be upset if the child writes 2 words as an answer. Don't be upset if your child isn't, quote unquote, creative enough in your eyes. The point is to keep this as positive an experience as we can. And then keeping kids in the loop as well as these times are happening. How is it that you yourself need positivity? How do you need courage? How do you need persistence and grit? Keeping kids in the loop, but keeping it very simple and not oversharing is important as well. And then checking in on the little ones, because quite frankly, sometimes we have multiple age children and those kids that are able to grasp the concepts of RISE, might be enjoying themselves, but the younger siblings who might not be there, you want to check in with them. You want to figure out how do you involve them as well. When I say sometimes the path of least resistance is the right path, I mean, let kids decide. It's very, very tempting for us as parents to guide them and say, well, are you sure you don't want to say that you want to be a doctor when you grow up? Are you sure you don't want your business to be this? The path of least resistance is having your kids decide. And then finally, ask for help. We're here at the Chamber to help you and accept, that there are a lot of people out there and a lot of ways in which we can help. So at the end, really, we want to thank you for the hour you've given us. Really, the goal is staying sane and safe during these times and really trying to figure out how to be creative and flexible. And don't try to be too hard on yourself. That's what RISE is trying to do. It's trying to take a lot of some of that stress off of you. So with that, I'll end and pass it back to Erica.
Thank you very much, Erica. We appreciate you taking the time today for this presentation. I think that, this program is one of the good things that we could be doing right now with our kids. I'm very excited about this program and actually having some time right now at home to be able to do this. I've been trying to find the time to start doing these workbooks with my boys, and we get started and, then other things got in the way. But now, with all the advice that Erica was giving us towards the end, it's a good thing to help you have some time with your kids, have them do something productive, and really kind of help us through these times. So thank you so much, Erica. And I think we were going to open up for Q&A now.
So we did have someone ask if we will be sharing the link. I just posted the link for you all to visit and download the workbook in either English or Spanish.
Any other questions? Whew, I may have gotten off easy. Excellent.
Well, if there's no other questions, we want to thank everybody again for joining us today. And we want to thank Erica again for taking the time to give us this wonderful presentation. And if you should have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at the Chamber.
Hey, Erica, this is Juan Ayala. I'm sorry I just jumped in.
That's okay, General. Do you want to say a couple of words before we sign off?
Yeah, I was on another city council. I was on another call. No, I've been listening in with one earbud and one earbud on the other one. Yeah, no, this is great. I had an interview with Univision a couple days ago. I mentioned this program, and I think I think it's a great program. I've read the workbook. I want to thank the leadership of Erica Prosper and Erica, you for hosting this. And so I really appreciate it. Anything that I can do in my position here, please let me know.
I think I'll add that the biggest ask we have is for everyone to just share the workbook, share this webinar if need be. We want to just make sure that we give you a resource here at the Hispanic Chamber that your kids will enjoy doing, but that also provides you with some of the things we saw our kids need more than anything else, which is really this idea of consistency, of routine, of something fun and positive to do. And all of that is secretly in this book under the guise of entrepreneurship. And so our hope is that after the kids go through the book and go through it with yourself or themselves or their siblings, that they will have some of the skill sets needed as we kind of go into a little bit more of an unknown in the months ahead.
Wonderful. Did anyone else have any questions? Thank you all. And as mentioned, we will have this recording available on our website. And we appreciate you all joining us today and this afternoon. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.